Normally I don't talk about games before they release, but I figure since we're now in the festive month of December, it wouldn't hurt to treat ourselves and have a bit of fun. I'm still busy playing Cyberpunk and wanted to just put something out in the meantime. Back 4 Blood has been easily one of my most anticipated games all year. And while it wasn't one of the games I was anticipating to appear at the Game Awards, I was personally holding out more for a new Sons of the Forest gameplay trailer. I'm certainly happy that we got something more than concept art to look at. At first I was considering doing a separate video on Back 4 Blood cinematic trailer, but after actually watching it, I can readily tell you without any exaggeration that it is basically the same action FPS trailer we've been seeing every year since God knows how long. Generic characters bicker as they take down small groups of enemies, we get some cool individual shots of characters doing some cool things, until they all come face to face with one massive enemy none of them alone can face. So they're all forced to band together to eliminate it. They do so, joke around, before looking around and seeing a swarm of generic enemies. We get that classic back-to-back circle shot as the camera pans away and the trailer ends. I might have cut out a few things, but that's honestly a pretty accurate description if you don't want to watch the full 2.5 minute long trailer for yourself. It's not altogether that remarkable, so instead, like I said at the start, I'm going to be focusing most of my time here on what everyone actually cares about, the gameplay trailer. The first thing we see is one of the usual disclaimers that what we're looking at is unfinished gameplay. Personally, I'm not going to entirely believe that, as I've seen way too many quote-unquote gameplay trailers that end up looking far more polished than the game itself does on release. But hey, if the game at release ends up looking as nice as it does here in this gameplay trailer, I will most certainly be impressed. However, until then, I'm going to inject a healthy dose of skepticism. The first thing we see is Back 4 Blood's version of a safe house. Anyone who's ever played a single match of Left 4 Dead or Left 4 Dead 2 will instantly recognize this standard wooden safe house with your traditional Chamber of Secrets-esque bloody writing on the walls. Many of these said blood messages being direct callbacks to the phrases we've seen on the walls in Left 4 Dead. There are also some nice little quality of life details that make it look like an actual lived-in building. And of course we get the all too familiar sound of zombies banging on the seemingly invincible safe room door, waiting for us all to run out there. Now, I could be wrong, but in this trailer it looks like the developer providing this footage is playing with AI bots as opposed to other human players, because there are a few telltale signs. The other characters are more than happy to stand completely still, not even looking around with their mouse, until the developer opens the door, at which point they start moving at nearly the exact same time, all uttering voice lines. I'm quite happy to see that offline co-op with bots is a feature that might be brought back in this game, as for those of us who play at odd times like me, being a third shift worker myself, I tend to either play early in the morning when I first get out of work or late at night on my nights off. Not exactly the best times to start looking for other players to play with, so relying on bots, while not exactly a perfect solution, usually proves to be a pretty good fallback plan. At this point, we get our first look at the actual gunplay. From a visual perspective in terms of the weapon visual effects and animations, as well as some of the enemy designs, this game reminds me a little bit of Earthfall. If you don't remember Earthfall, I don't blame you. It was a similarly initially promising Left 4 Dead inspired game, except with a more sci-fi driven tone as opposed to horror. It swapped out zombies for aliens, and the player's weapons were kind of a hybrid between conventional weapons and sci-fi laser guns. Here, while we don't have aliens, we definitely still have that laser gun approach, which when introduced into a zombie co-op game feels kind of weird and out of place, especially when the cinematic trailer we just saw presented this game as being, like Left 4 Dead, a very grounded experience. I'd much rather have guns that roughly look and act not that dissimilar to what we had in Left 4 Dead. I don't want to feel like I'm fighting in the Grand Army of the Republic when I'm shooting zombies. The game visually has a nice contrast of colors. The map is presented with a lot of blues, grays, and darker colors, while many of the enemies glow with a vibrant red. Also, not to mention, when you're busting skulls and they explode, they give off a pretty nice red coloring too. I think if there was one fair criticism you could make about Left 4 Dead is that while its gameplay was pretty unique, the game itself teetered upon the edge of being somewhat visually generic at times, whereas the colors here definitely seem to pop out a little bit more without being overkill. As with any Left 4 Dead inspired game, we do have elite zombie variants to deal with. We've got a new 20-foot tall massive creature that looks like a slower but more powerful version of the Left 4 Dead tank, as well as a new updated version of the Spitter, and some new ones as well, like a melee focused one that has some kind of super speed dodge ability that looks like it'll prove to be quite a pain in the ass to deal with. I do worry that this game will rely a bit more on scripted sequences based off this trailer footage than we would like, but until we see more lengthy gameplay sessions, it's really impossible to determine right now. We also saw that other Left 4 Dead creatures are returning in slightly new forms, like the Bloater, that big blob of a thing that would try to charge at you and explode goo everywhere. Melee weapons also seem to be returning, with a player seen wielding an axe at the end there. Special elimination animations seem to be a thing here, which we've been seeing a lot of in recent games, but which wasn't really a thing in Left 4 Dead. We saw that one giant mutant zombie grabbing a player through a wall, and at the end we saw a player lunge forward into a special melee elimination of a normal zombie. Now this could be just pre-rendered bits of bullshit from the developer to make the combat seem more cool than it is. I mean, it's not like it's the first time a major developer and publisher try to make a game seem cooler than it actually is by carefully crafting its image pre-release. I mean, come on, this is the gaming industry we're talking about. Lying is second nature to some of these people. I mean, for crying out loud, the game is being published by Warner Bros. Interactive, the same studio that, if I'm not mistaken, infamously violated US federal law regarding sponsorship disclaimers by paying off YouTube content creators to show off Middle-earth Shadow of War in its best possible light, insisting said content creators carefully edit out any footage that shows any in-game bugs, exploits, crashes, missing features, or objective criticism. You know you've crossed a line when the US federal government is forced to investigate you as a company for violating laws regarding sponsored content. It's thanks to Warner Bros. That YouTubers now have to literally mark their videos as being sponsored in order to avoid said videos being taken down by YouTube. So long story short, thanks Warner Bros., your dishonesty has inadvertently and indirectly forced large YouTubers to become slightly more honest. As always, I'm going to wait to see more before I make up my mind for sure about this game, but as it is a Warner Bros. Game, that means I trust it even less than I do your average EA game. At least EA is usually upfront about its BS most of the time. Warner you have to be a bit more careful with. Either their games are amazing, or they're complete train wrecks. They're rarely anything in the middle. Either way, that's all I really have to say. Let me know as always what you think in the comments down below. Are you going to check out the Back 4 Blood livestream they're doing next Thursday? And do you plan on buying this game at launch? Yes? No? I'm curious. If you enjoyed this video, you might like some of my other videos. I generally do a lot of game review and first impression type content on a weekly basis. If you want to see more videos from me in the future, I really recommend subscribing and clicking the bell to get notifications, so you can be among the first to know when a new video goes live. You know the deal. My goal is to end the month at about 1,100 subscribers, so the closer we get to that goal, the happier I'll be. In the meantime, this is WarriorDan signing out. Stay awesome, everybody. Stay safe, and peace out.